All right, we have Conan 19. Thank you, man. Go ahead, Maddie.
I asked about how they would feel about a man crying earlier. The verdict is that women want a man to be confident. In today's society, I don't know if women realize, but it's terrifying for a man to confidently approach a woman with the fear of being #MeToo'd.
Word? Word?
What do you mean by approach? I mean...
Well, men are scared of, like, if they were to approach a woman, that she would, you know...
I'm concerned that he can't figure out how to approach a woman without bordering on sexual harassment or assault. If he's talking about Me Too.
Yeah.
Right?
I feel that, like, there are men, and it may not even be their fault, who just can't approach a woman without it being creepy. And it's not all about not being a Chad. And I think some men just can't do it charismatically, and that can come off as creepy, whereas so I give him that. He's probably one of those.
Well, yeah, I think he's probably, there's, I think, a bigger fear of, like, if you approach a woman, it's not like, oh, while it may very much be a valid fear of, like, a false accusation, I think the bigger concern for a lot of men is just being perceived as creepy.
Mm-hmm.
They don't do anything, you know, they're not, like, abusing her in some way, but they approach and perhaps they don't quite know how to navigate that in a smooth way, and then they're concerned about being perceived as creepy. Or even if they do approach in a smooth manner, often the difference between, like, the exact same behavior is going to be viewed in two totally separate ways, whether the woman's attracted to you or not.
Yes.
Like, the same behavior that would get one guy labeled as a creep would be welcomed from a guy that a woman finds physically attractive.
That's true, but I think there are some behaviors that fall into that category, but there are also behaviors, like, I think, like, anybody, whether you're attractive or not, like, catcalling obviously isn't a way to approach a woman.
Right.
So I think there are some behaviors where that's true, but there
Sure.
are some that are obvious no's, and there are others, like just someone saying, hey, I hope you have a good day, that most women aren't going to be like, oh, I hate rapists. Like, that's not a thing.
Sure.
Well, and plus, too, you can also pick up on social cues. Like, you can tell within, like, 3 minutes of talking to a chick if she's interested or not. And so if she's clearly not interested, and be like, you know what? Sorry, I'm going to go. And then that's how you don't be creepy. Don't
Do you
keep
think there's a
pushing her.
portion of men that can't pick up those?
Yes.
Probably,
Yes,
yeah.
Yes.
A shocking amount.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah, I mean, then there's definitely men who are, who perhaps wrongly believe that you ought to be persistent. But men are in this sort of damned if you do, damned if you don't position, because there's a lot of, you hear these stories of, like, oh, you know, I rejected him 3 times and then now we're married. My personal view is, if you get rejected once, just move on. Don't push it.
Not a bad rule.
Just take
sense.
You know. Yeah.
I think what's hard for a lot of guys is that we don't really have a courting culture anymore. And so even from woman to woman, it's going to differ what she thinks is creepy versus acceptable versus cute versus confident. So it's hard being on the receiving end as a woman, because then you end up going through things that you find are creepy and uncomfortable and maybe even make you feel unsafe. And it's also hard on the man's end, because you don't want to be perceived as a creep and you don't know maybe how to, I guess, in a way that makes her feel comfortable, let her know you're interested in. So it's kind of, I don't envy single people is what I'm trying to say. It's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard out there.
I agree.
It's
Those
hard
of you
out.
that say I don't agree on
doesn't matter,
anything,
it's
I agree.
Yeah.